Having kids is one of the most personal decisions someone can make. So why does everyone seem to have an opinion on it? Hey class, welcome to Abroad Sex Education, the sex education you deserve that actually makes sense. I'm your host, sex educator, and professor on peer-pressured procreation, Sin. And today, my co-hosts are a couple of race traders, Asa and Brooklyn.
Yay! Proud to be a race trader.
I'll tell you guys what that means.
Okay, I was literally going to be like, I've never been told that before, so I don't know what that means. But I mean, it sounds good. Sounds cool.
This podcast is a sex education resource for adults. We have real, inclusive conversations about human sexuality, pleasure, relationships, gender, identity, and more. Some topics may feel explicit or sensitive, especially in today's lesson where we mention reproductive pressure, pregnancy, birth control and abortion access, infertility, eugenics, racism, white nationalism, forced or coerced reproduction, child-free stigma, and the social pressures around parenthood. Please take care while listening. Our goal is to break the stigma and offer the kind of sex education many of us never got. We're learning too, and we're bringing what we learn here so we can all grow together. You deserve to know what this is about, so you can make an informed choice to listen. Or not. That's what consent looks like, even here. Today's lesson is called The Pressure to Procreate Explained. Specifically, we're talking about pronatalism, which is the policy, practice, or belief that encourages people to have children. There's been a lot of discussion lately on having children that's popping up on my feed at least. During a Turning Point USA event this past June, Erica Kirk encouraged women to have, quote unquote, more babies than they could afford. And another speaker, I don't know if it was the same event, but it was another Turning Point USA event. And I don't know her name, and I don't care to learn her name. But she encouraged women to do so before they're ready. And so while motherhood can be a rewarding experience, that isn't universal for everyone. So I wanted to talk about it today.
I hate Erica Kirk. I'm so tired of her face and her voice. Just go away.
But she wanted to be here. That's the whole thing.
I know.
She wanted to be in your face.
So badly.
So bad.
Mm-hmm.
She single-handedly drove me off Instagram. She didn't, but I just am tired of seeing her. She's not in my feed that much, but I've seen her too much.
Right.
I know too much about her against my will.
Once is too much.
Yeah.
Have you ever been asked this question, when are you having kids, or felt the pressure to procreate?
Yeah. When I was with my ex, we wouldn't get asked when we were getting married. We would get asked when we're having kids.
I've gotten it from some extended family members after we got engaged.
Mm-hmm.
One of my titas asked me, oh, are you guys going to have kids? And I told her, like, no, we don't want them. She's like, oh, you're like my daughter. She doesn't want kids either. And that's cool. She's like, they travel a lot. And that's really nice. And so, yeah.
That's a perfect response.
Right. In this lesson, we're asking, why does society turn the personal decision of having children into a cultural, economic, and political expectation? And how is that pressure to procreate woven into our language, history, and society? Which are going to be our three subjects. So we're going to be covering language, where we're going to just talk about what pronatalism is and how the pressure to have children is discussed in U.S. society. We're going to talk about history, and this is going to be a global history, not just U.S. history. And then when I say society, specifically, we're going to be talking about civics.
Okay.
Just a preface for this episode, we're not telling you to have children. We're not telling you to not have children. I said it in our last episode, but I genuinely believe that the people who want children should have them. I know I don't want them. We've all discussed that we know we don't want them. And we all agree that kids deserve to have parents who want them. This episode is just to learn, where does that pressure come from? Who does it affect? And what can we learn from it? Before we get into this lesson, is there anything you're curious or hoping to learn about?
I feel like I'm going to be upset by the eugenic stuff.
Yeah.
That's all that really stood out to me so far.
I know that it is very included in social structures, and we always hear about how we have to monitor the fertility rate and the birth rate and this and that with regards to growing and stabilizing the society, right? But yeah, I guess I'm interested in seeing that aspect of it.
All right. Well, let's start off with language. The vocabulary of baby pressure. We're going to look at the definition of pronatalism and the awkward way extended relatives ask whether you're having sex is considered somehow socially acceptable small talk. So the word pronatalism, I know it sounds academic, but it's not really. We're going to just break it out into 3 parts. So pro, natal, and ism. When something ends in ism, it's just a belief or system. In this case, pro is to be in favor of something, and natal is birth. So this is simply the belief of being in favor of birth. It's not the same thing as liking babies, wanting kids, being a parent, or supporting families. Supporting people who want children is not the same as pressuring everyone to have them. Have you ever heard of this word?
Yes, I have.
Okay, cool. How about you?
I was going to say I heard of it like 2 days ago when you told me that this was what the episode was on. And I was like, is that like pro-life, anti-abortion stuff? And then you were like, no. And then you elaborated. And I was like, okay, I'm aware. I've heard like briefly in the wings that that's a thing that some people are pushing in our government. And I was like, no, thank you. And I just ignored it.
Right. Yeah. I think when I talk about the things in these next few segments, you'll have a familiarity with pronatalism. I just think that there hasn't been a word specifically tied to it that's been upfront. So there's actually 5 different types of pronatalism.
Oh.
There is personal pronatalism, and that's when someone is saying, I believe having children is one of the most meaningful things a person can do. There's cultural pronatalism. A good example of this is in some Asian cultures, they believe that you should have children because who will take care of you when you're older?
Mm.
There is policy pronatalism, and an example of this is when the Trump administration considered a policy proposing medals of motherhood for women who had sex-pledged kids or $5,000 baby bonuses.
$5,000 isn't that much.
It's not enough to raise a child, which we will see in the civics section. There's also coercive pronatalism, and an example of this is restricting access to sex education so people have fewer options or understanding about getting pregnant. And then the last one is selective pronatalism, and this is the belief that some people should reproduce more than other people.
Oh. One, interestingly, like the coercive one, it more so impacts women because, I mean, in theory, the dad, if they want to just fuck off, they can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Coercive pronatalism usually disproportionately affects women a lot more. Yeah.
I didn't know there were multiple layers to it. I feel like whenever I've heard the term pronatalism, it has always been mostly referenced in the policy level, I would say. Mm-hmm. Because I think my context of it is like in comparison to other cultures that are, or societies or countries that are struggling with low birth rates. And in those countries, typically is the context I'm thinking of it, there is a adoption of pronatalism as a way for the government to be like, we got all these old people who are dying off, we gotta get more babies or we're gonna collapse, right? And so I think that yes, I recognize that there is a distinction there because if you're not operating in a space where you are trying to address a social issue, I guess, if you have social structures that are set up in a way to lean on a certain number of workers in the society, that's only one aspect of it. That's only the policy part. So that actually makes sense that there is also the layers of like, oh, well, if I'm on an individual level and I'm coercing you, my female partner, to start having babies, right? And there is less of a choice there. But yeah, I can see how there's variable ways this could be applied.
Yeah. The pressure to have kids also relates a lot to what we discussed in the marriage and virginity episode. I saw it online where it was a opinion about someone. People don't have as much kids anymore because previously when they would have kids, it's because they were like tending to the farm, helping out with the household, and doing all of these other things. Versus now, children are a little bit more of a luxury, and it's expensive to raise a kid. And on top of that, you're not expecting them to work. I mean, maybe you are if you have a farm, but there's not so much of a reason for having kids as much as there was back then.
Well, and they would like die a lot back then too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they didn't have health care and things. So it was like, have a bunch because they might not all make it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Now that we know what the word means, how does this become a topic of discussion? So a lot of the times people discuss the experience with the assumption of having kids.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a default that in society we expect people to do. So people will ask things like, when are you going to start a family and settle down? And that just implies that people without children are not a family yet. And that's kind of sucky.
Yeah, I'm just laughing because of the graphic. It's like an elderly woman, not like a young cousin asking, when are you going to settle down and have a family? Yeah, and I think families, like we talked about in the previous episode, they can look like different to everybody.
Mm-hmm. Another thing, it's like two parents being like, when are you going to give us grandchildren? And I feel like that's just annoying.
Never.
Yeah.
Maybe in the next life.
Yeah. And then this one is a man saying, you'll change your mind when you're older. And I specifically put a man because this is what my ex would tell me all the time.
I was going to say I've only been told that by a man. No, I think I've been told that by a woman too, but I have been told that by a man.
Yeah. I think even with the phrase like saying someone is settled down, it kind of suggests that you're only mature once you have children.
Well, settling to me seems like a bad thing. Like you settled.
Right. Yeah. Settling doesn't feel great.
I gave up on my dreams and I settled down.
Right. Even in like some movies and shows, when people are like, I'm going to chase my dream, and there's like the person that opposes it, I'm like, no, why don't you just have a good life and just settle down? And like,
Right.
It's always in opposition to what someone actually wants to do with their life. And that's like basically telling like, don't follow your dreams.
Oh, it's almost like, well, I wasn't able to follow my dreams, so you shouldn't be able to.
Right. There's also a couple phrases that I want to bring up. So like when someone says they're childless, that makes it seem like there's something missing. In my opinion, that just means you want to have kids, but you can't or you don't at the moment. And then child-free is you making the choice to not have kids.
I have a lot of friends that have chosen to not have kids, and we joke a lot about like saying something to make the other person uncomfortable when they ask, like, oh, I'm barren, so I can't, like something that's like so inappropriate, because it is already, like you said, a really personal question to ask. So then to like overshare something really personal back to make them feel bad.
Yeah, I like to do that same thing.
Yeah.
I like to pull what the Duke did in the first season of Bridgerton, where he's like, I can't have children. It's like,
And a tear runs down.
yeah. It's not that, because it's like he could.
Yeah.
I can't. Like,
Right.
it's a personal reason.
Yeah, morally, I can't. Because I care about the planet.
I think it's purely a selfish thing for me. I can't because I don't want to subject myself to that. And I'm perfectly fine saying that I don't want to, right? I've never lied about it, I guess.
Yeah.
I've always been very direct about like, no, I just don't want to have kids, right? But I do get asked, oh, when are you going to have kids, right? Or there's the assumption is that, oh, when you're older, you will, once you settle down, you will have, like, when you and your partner get your things figured out, you'll have kids. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's a baseline.
Even the phrase family planning assumes pregnancy and children, but family planning can also just be the decision to not have kids.
I'm planning to be alone with my partner.
Yeah. When we talk about language, we also have to talk about how people experience language based on their gender. So I'm using gender examples here because there's a lot of stereotypes pronatalism relies on. There's a different expectations when it comes to parenting for women and men. So for women, pronatalism really praises motherhood as something that's natural, sacred, selfless, and fulfilling. And it's considered the highest expression of womanhood.
Yeah, I've definitely heard similar things of that, of like a natural caregiver and things like that.
Yeah. So there's actually, you know how like everyone's like, oh, you have to do it because it's your maternal instinct. Like, what about that maternal instinct? Maternal instinct is a myth. It's widely considered a myth in scientific circles. I think with pronatalism, they try to emphasize that maternal instinct is what motivates women to have children, and they'll know exactly what to do when they have them. But the word instinct in and of itself means like a natural innate behavior as a response to a certain stimuli. And no one knows how to be a parent just from like coming out of the womb.
Right, because it's like the only like maternal instinct that could scientifically exist would be like to keep an infant alive.
Right.
And like that's just the bare minimum, you know. But also like postpartum is totally probably taking away any instincts that you have.
Yeah. There's
like depression.
Yeah. There's a psychologist, Dr. Catherine Monk, and she believed that this idea was exaggerated. And in the article that I read, they even talked about how there's this expectation, like when you have your baby, you're just going to have this instant connection with them. But in a 2018 study, it showed that these feelings can take several days after a birth to develop. And some women even struggle to feel it several months after, you know, like postpartum, which to me is completely valid. Like,
Yeah.
I love Winston so much. When I first got him, I was like, okay, I have a dog now.
I don't even know you.
Yeah. You have this new person in your life and you are trying to figure out, like, I don't necessarily think that the bond is immediate.
I don't think you produce oxytocin when you're like pregnant with a child.
Yeah.
So you're not bonding with them until after they come out of the womb, and then the oxytocin would then start.
Right.
I don't know that for sure, but that's what I think.
Yeah. Also, like, in the research that was done in determining this myth, there's a lot of animals in society where, like, the dads do most of the work. In a lot of birds, they both take care of the parenting, so it's not like only the mothers are taking care of them.
I have some doves in my backyard, and they're terrible parents. They like had to put a box in there because they couldn't. They were like building nests on the ground, but it was just like a couple of twigs, and they've killed a lot of things. A lot of their eggs.
Oh no!
I know, they're bad parents.
Yeah, apparently 90% of aviary couples share the parental load, and in 2 out of 3 fish species, the dads do the nursing. And
Like was Marlin in Finding Nemo nursing?
Well, he was just
He was a single dad.
Yeah, it's essentially the female fish just put the fish wherever they lay them and then fuck off.
Oh.
And then the dads take care of them.
Yeah, that's great. The male seahorse, that's like the famous example.
Yeah, where they're the ones giving birth.
Yeah.
It's very common to use biology as the like, oh, look at this example where in this other species the male is the, you know, protector kind of thing. And I don't necessarily think that's fully the case, because I remember watching a YouTube video that was basically talking about like male hunters in the caveman era, and they were also accompanied by female hunters, and that like we incorrectly have assumed that there was as much of a split based on that. It was because one of the initial scientific conventions that was brought together was literally titled Man the Hunter, but there was evidence presented at that convention. There was examples of like archaeological remains of like clearly female skeletons that like had equipment that were used for hunting and like were in isolation from any males around them. And because the way that we hunted things was we ran after them, right, until they got tired and died. Like that was literally how we got protein. And so, you know, you didn't have to be strong and like structurally, you weren't fighting anything, right? Like this whole myth of like, the man that is like fighting off the bear is bullshit. Like it's all bullshit. Whereas when people look at other species and be like, oh, like there's like sexual dimorphism of like males are larger, stronger, whatever. Like we did have that, but that was like an agricultural change, right? Like when we had agriculture and there was a benefit that a man could be like working the field all day, well, then they would be able to provide more food for a larger family. Like then there was actually like a split, right? But I think that that was also in tandem with like nuclear family. And like now we're rooted because we're agricultural and we're using this specific land to produce crops. And so now we can just have more people, have more family, to have more laborers to like maintain the crops, right? So like, again, that's not biology. We invented that. We invented the technology, agriculture, to shift us towards that. And so like I think that the problem I have is that like it's very easy for people to conflate those things of like, you know, you brought orality into it. Is like, that's completely unrelated to like physical interaction. So I don't know. It's very nuanced, I think.
Well, and that is also an interesting point, because one of the books I was reading a couple of times ago, the woman was talking about the hunter-gatherer era, and it was both men and women were doing these things. And her point was kind of against this, where like the woman should be home with the kids, but she's saying that like we're coming back to our natural ways where both people are bringing home food and income and all of those things. So it wasn't like a divide by gender. It was like, no, women do have a place being like, I don't know if you want to call them like the breadwinners, but like the food winners or whatever.
Good points.
Thank you. Extra credit.
I mean, I didn't know that. I thought it was, I mean, I didn't think, my thought always with the whole like hunter-gatherer thing was, why wouldn't you just get the people who are the fastest, strongest, regardless of their gender? Which, like, I'm sure usually the native tribes didn't care. Yeah.
Right.
Like, they didn't, I'm sure they didn't care.
Yeah, like a lot of Native Americans were matriarchal, so.
Yeah. A lot of women get this, like, oh, women are more nurturing, while men get a different script. Men are encouraged to reproduce because of legacy or lineage or virility, or to pass their family name, or to be a provider. Provide.
That's a word I hear a lot in that realm.
And I think this is the thing. It's like women are often asked, will you give yourself to children? And then men are asked, will you build a legacy through your children? So it's like different expectations based on where your gender is. There's a comedian I really like. Her name is Catherine Ryan. She has a joke from one of her stand-ups where she says, I don't think I'm a good mom, but I'm a great dad. It's one of my favorite things that she said. Because it's like, it's, again, the expectations of being a good mother are impossible versus being a good dad. The bar is on the floor.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's important for people to have good dads. Like, but I also think the words that are listed there, I could be like, well, his contribution was the sperm donor, and then that is his legacy.
Right.
I don't know. I struggle a little bit because I know in recent memory I have told someone who was pregnant and was going to go on maternity leave that I thought that she would be a good mother, because I genuinely believe that, right? But now I'm like questioning, like, should I have said that? Like,
I think at that point, it's too late.
Well, yeah, sure.
I think knowing someone and telling them, like, hey, I think you would be a good mother is nice, but I think that's different than the expectation for all women to be mothers, but also to be a good mother.
Because there's a lot of bad mothers out there too.
Yeah. We talked about in the last episode that moms wear so many hats. There's so many jobs you do as a mother, and you can do one small thing and you could be deemed as a bad mother really easily. Women get judged about how they raise their children, even if it's the way they want to raise them. Like if a woman decides, oh, like, I don't give my kids sugar or whatever. And some people would be like, oh, that's fine. But then other people would be like, oh my God, you're depriving your children. Like there's going to be judgment either way. Versus a dad could just go to a doctor's appointment for his pregnant wife and they're like, oh my God, he goes to all the appointments with you. He's such a good dad.
So involved.
He's so involved in your child's life.
Right.
Also, women get judged. Like if a woman decides she doesn't want to breastfeed, she'll get judgment from like other mothers for being
or
like,
if she decides that she does want to breastfeed, then she'll also get judgment. Like either way, it's somebody's going to feel that they have a reason to have an opinion on what their decision is that they make.
yeah. You can't win as a mother. In my opinion, someone is always going to tell you you're doing it wrong. And they'll give you unsolicited advice on how they would do it.
Right.
I think it's much more common to see communication about mothering a child than there is for being a father. For sure.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
I think that just like overall, there's more, like you said, unsolicited advice. And obviously a lot of it has to do with like pregnancy, of course, right? Like obviously a father is not going to be dealing with that, right? But I think that even post-birth, right, and even while raising, I think there's a lot more critiques on women who have children and judgments therein.
Yeah.
I'd be honest, I've never heard the term child-free, or what was the other one you used earlier?
Childless?
I've literally never heard anyone call anyone else either of those terms before. I don't know if that's just like a common thing that I've missed or...
You don't go on social media.
I was gonna say, I feel like I've seen it written. I don't know if I've heard the words come out of somebody's mouth.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen it on social media. Well, people be like, I choose to live a child-free life, which is cool. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
People will say, oh, she's childless. But every time I've heard that, it's like the Victorian era. It's like watching a show from that time period.
Right.
So it's different. Free is a much more modern term or a modern slang versus like childless is kind of was like a put down, especially back in the day. I don't know if that's for sure, but that's just from watching television shows of that time period. Yeah. So what would it mean if we didn't live in a society that had pronatalist pressure? Well, in that case, we would have reproductive agency, which is the ability to make meaningful decisions about if, when, or how, and under what conditions to have children. This is the whole point of this episode. Is people should have reproductive agency. They should be able to decide to have children, not have children, parent safely, change their mind prior to having kids, and being supportive either way.
No. I actually, you can change your mind after having kids. I didn't know that, but you can be like, my kid's out of control. CPS, come take them, which is wild.
Yeah, ideally before you have children.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. My mind immediately went to like some kind of interesting sci-fi alternate reality where some people choose to have kids and then they just do the action of going through pregnancy, like a surrogate kind of a thing. And it's like a thing that you get like, you know, a payout for like, hey, thanks for like making more people for the society. But then you like reassign that kid to someone who actually wants to be a parent. Like,
oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, why does it have to be that we encourage as a baseline everybody to, you know, I guess that, I mean, we do have surrogate mothers, right? Like, that's literally a thing.
In this
like,
country. Some countries you can't have them.
Yeah. Oh, is it like less common in like Europe? And
In
like I know
Switzerland, it is not legal to have a surrogate.
Really?
I just found out.
Wow, that's
yeah.
Oh, is
crazy.
it?
I just found that
Interesting.
out yesterday.
Well, I'm so curious. Do you know, like, why? What the,
Let me read you.
mm,
So, my sister is a nurse,
oh,
and that's how I found out.
yeah.
And then she sent, surrogacy is prohibited. Let me try to read again. Surrogacy is prohibited under Swiss law. However, due to the globalization and advances in artificial reproductive technologies, more and more people residing in Switzerland decide to undergo surrogacy abroad in order to start a family and have children.
Because I know surrogacy is like a lot of time used for people who really want to have kids,
Yeah.
but they physically can't.
Or like if I had the money and I wanted a kid, I would totally do a surrogate because then you don't have to carry it.
Right. I feel like that's to me, like and I think I've literally said this on the podcast before, is like, even if I could be pregnant, like physically, I
Right.
would not want that experience because it just sounds traumatic. Like just the like hormonal
Yeah.
craziness.
It feeds off of your body like a parasite. That's why
Right.
you get like sick and
Yeah.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like you can see a physical, like the nutrients have been sucked out of her body. So you like see, you know.
Right. I think I was watching, is it Kurzgesagt? I don't know. There's a YouTube video that's like does amazing animations. I think it's like Kurzgeist or something like that. And they do one about like pregnancy, and it's like literally like it's not just that you're feeding the baby, you're also feeding the placenta. Like, it's literally like having two babies for one baby that one is just literally discarded.
With one mouth.
Yeah, exactly. It's very interesting.
So it looks like in Switzerland, they prohibit surrogacy to protect surrogate mothers from exploitation and for safeguarding the best interests of the child. So they don't want vulnerable women to be exploited.
Anyone in Switzerland vulnerable? Aren't they all rich? I'm just kidding.
Kurzgesagt.
That's the name of the channel.
Yes. They have amazing animations. Highly recommend.
Okay.
Kurzgesagt. The be supported either way is really interesting, right? Because right now there are policies in place to encourage you to do the action of having a kid, right? But is that necessarily the same as like, are you paid to have a kid and raise it and let it go to school, right? Like, are you actually paid to raise a child after they are born? No, we don't do any support after the kid is
like, we don't
a
have free
burden on
child
someone.
care or anything. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, do you want to see how pronatalism was like in history?
Not really. No, I'm just kidding.
It's pretty dark.
Yeah.
Being honest.
It sounds like it's going to be rough.
So, when did reproduction become something governments, churches, and empires felt entitled to manage? We're going to go into history when babies became a national project. Why did reproduction become so important? Well, a lot of reasons. Primarily because babies means taxpayers, and which means couples, which means more babies. So this is a way for the government to have more people so that it can keep funding itself.
I had a bad feeling that that was one of the reasons that the policy portion came to be.
Yeah. In pre-modern and early modern societies, more children often meant more labor, more heirs, more soldiers, more members of the faith community, and more people to sustain a household or state. High infant and child mortality rates meant families had more births than the number of children who survived to adulthood. So like we said earlier. Pronatalism is often less about babies and more about individuals or what they represent. So just labor.
And also, though, there's like 9 billion people on the planet. Do we really need more?
Well, if you are in the privileged few to be able to be in the system and you benefit from the extraction of wealth from the system, then you need labor. Right?
Yeah.
Like the only people who would be pushing for this are those who have a vested interest in seeing the system operate. Because if your livelihood is wealth extraction from labor, you need laborers.
Right.
So you benefit if the system is running. Gross.
Yeah, it's not ideal. If babies are so valuable to society, then preventing babies start to look suspicious, and that's where we're going to go next. We've talked about this guy before. This is Anthony Comstock. He was a veteran during the Civil War, and during his time in the war, he just noticed all the soldiers being debaucherous and like drinking and doing drugs and looking at pornographic materials, and he was appalled and became an anti-vice activist and lobbied for the government to pass the 1873 Comstock Act. This Comstock Act made it illegal to send anything lewd, lascivious, or obscene in the mail, and that included, in this case, for the sake of this conversation, contraceptives.
I remember his act.
Yeah. He became the U.S. Postal Inspector and made it his personal mission to go through everyone's mail and decide what he thought was lewd, lascivious, and obscene. And so he...
I just love a crazy man that's fighting a losing battle so hard, like an army of one.
Well, I mean, his law is still in place today in society.
True.
I feel like...
People are still not having babies if they don't want to.
Yeah. He made sure to remove any sort of information about birth control being sent, which is just a form of coercive pronatalism, because if people can't access information to contraception or contraception itself, then he's just removing choice.
Right.
We're actually going to do birth control in the next couple of episodes, so we'll come back to this story a little bit more. By this point, we didn't have the pill until the 1960s and 70s. So the birth control that was around was mostly the condom, but there were some other alternate options too. This is just an example of how pronatalism wasn't just saying have babies. It was also making it hard to not have them. The Comstock Act is still discussed in modern legal debates because parts of the statute remain relevant in abortion-related litigation that is happening today.
I'm like kind of shell-shocked a little bit because I'm wondering if the actual conversation ever happened maybe not with Comstock or, specifically this dude, but like at some point, if there was a conversation about policy creation that was specifically set up as, hey, if we remove the information that you could potentially have birth control, that will by default help people, encourage them to have children, which then encourages the social system to keep going as is. Like, I genuinely like wonder if that was a planned sort of like anticipatory, like, oh, we want to guide the system in a way so that the cog, right, just by default turns out more. I don't know. I'm just like,
This
in
is a
that world.
conspiracy theory I can get behind. I can see
Yeah.
that.
I don't think it was necessarily a conversation, but an understanding based on religion.
Oh, you think it was religious based?
Be-
Well, I mean, because religions also want to make money.
Yeah, even though we are a country that has the freedom of religion, we are, unfortunately, historically, a Christian nation.
The separation of church and state isn't as separate as it should be.
Right, exactly. And so because there was the belief that the purpose of sex is procreation, any person like Comstock who had this morality that they needed to push, like they were trying to push morality laws. And this is just an example of this. I don't think it was necessarily a conversation in like, hey, let's get together and see how we can prevent people. It's like, no. We need to follow the word of God. And this is what we need to do. This is our birthright or whatever. I think it was, if anything, it's possibly pushed in church. If anything.
I mean, I feel like growing up in a church, like going to church, and then also growing up near the Mormon religion, it was always told to me without sugarcoating that, like, well, how do you make your church grow? You have a lot of kids. And so I was like, oh, okay. So, and then I obviously was aware that donations go to the church.
So my brain is like thinking like, okay, like how do you fight the system with this? Because the impact of an individual against the system that's already established is so small, and it's only through like conversation and like, oh, I multiply my effort with my interaction with other people, right? And so like obviously if the system says you need to have babies so that we can keep running the system, right? What do you do as an individual now besides having a conversation about it to be like, okay, like can I prove to you that I can actually live a like lovely, fulfilling life and the system can still run? Like, do we just need more examples of that to like convince people that it's fine to not have kids?
You make a sex education platform giving people the information so they can make this decision for
Right.
themselves.
Yeah.
Right.
That's all.
But then how are the wealthy going to become more wealthy?
They have AI now.
Oh, that just have the robots work for them. They are investing in it. So yeah, that'll work.
The amount of moral policing that was done in our history is very tied to Christian religious beliefs, which again, we have the establishment clause, but we haven't followed it.
Yeah. I think it's like people protect their own, right? And if you are religious and you happen to also be in a position of power where you're responsible for helping make policies, and we do elect historically Christian people, that is like most of our base of politicians.
Because most of our presidential candidates have been Christian specific.
They were pissed when Kennedy was
He was the first Catholic.
Yeah,
And then I think we didn't have another till Biden.
Was Biden Catholic? Oh, I didn't know
I
that.
think so.
And then people got upset when they thought Obama could have been Muslim.
Right.
They were like throwing a whole ass fit at that.
But
claim.
like, why also?
Right.
Like, what is wrong with being Muslim?
Yeah. So, I also included the definition of comstockery. It's a noun, and it means excessive opposition to supposed immorality in the arts or prudery.
In the arts, so like how they covered Michelangelo's paintings with fabric after he died.
Yeah.
Oh, comstockery bullshit. I'm gonna start using that word in my vocabulary.
All right. That's it for today's class. We're going to pause here for today. In part 1, we learned that pronatalism is not just about wanting babies. It shows up in language, family expectations, gender roles, and even laws that make it harder for people to avoid pregnancy. In part 2, we're going to go darker. Because once a society starts caring about birth rates, the next question becomes, whose babies does society want more of, and whose reproduction does it try to control. So come back for part 2, where we're going to be talking about race suicide, eugenics, fascist motherhood campaigns, the myth of the traditional family, and why family values often comes without actual family support. Have any questions about human sexuality? Submit it anonymously using the link in the show notes. If this episode helped you understand something a little better, share it with a friend, because the best way to destigmatize sex is to talk about it. Follow the show to stay updated on future lessons. And if you want to go deeper, grab the Essential Sex Conversations workbook by joining our newsletter. Thanks for tuning in. Stay curious. Class dismissed. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.